So I am big proponent of having help in my real estate business. And I want to talk a little bit about my amazing virtual assistant and what she does for me. I want to share a little bit about that story. I want to share about how I hired them and specifically what they do for us. If you are listening to this and you're not sure if you're ready for a virtual assistant or if you don't know specifically what they would do for you, I'm going to give you some context here. If you have found your way here, you are a real estate pro who's ready to transition from chasing leads to getting dream clients to chase you. This podcast is where you will learn the business and systems strategies you need to grow your real estate business so that you can get paid consistently, connect with dream clients, and keep your sanity. If you are a seasoned agent or if you're an agent who's doing, a good amount of business, a lot of times real estate agents think that they need to hit a certain level before they're ready to hire help. And what I found is it's the other way around. You hire help to hit that certain level. And that at least has been true in my real estate business. And so I'm excited to talk just about three main things that my real estate virtual assistant does for us, and a little bit about how we hired her. And then I can share anything else. This is a newer conversation for this channel, or this podcast rather. So I'm going to rely on you to, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave me a comment on what I need to go more in depth on. If you're listening to this on just wherever you listen to podcasts, send me a direct message on Instagram at Bryce and Stephanie. In the Market Authority Academy, we work a lot with real estate agents to prepare them for their first hires and then help them work through their first hires. So if you want to just skip through the noise and actually get my help in walking through growing and scaling your team, I actually take 1 or 2 agents on for one-on-one coaching per month or so. And I might have availability to take you on if you want some help. So again, I've got a lot of different ways that I can help support you, but let's start with the conversation at hand. This is the Market Authority Show, and I'm your host, Stephanie Lugo. So I decided to, my husband and I we're a small but mighty real estate team. We made our first hire in 2016, and we were a couple of years into the business at that point. And let me tell you, it was a terrible experience, not because we hired someone who didn't want to work, but because we were so unprepared. And if you're wondering whether you're ready for hiring a real estate assistant, here's the basic rule of thumb. You need a collection of checklists and workflows that you can put on paper, slide across the table when you're interviewing a candidate and say, can you do these items step by step by step? When I made our first hire in 2016, I had no such thing in place. We were doing quite a bit of business at the time. We were busy. We knew we needed help, especially if we were going to get to that next level. We knew we weren't going to be able to get there alone, but we didn't know exactly what we needed help with because we did not have our systems in place. We didn't have a documented process for someone to follow and to be able to train them on. And so we knew that we needed help with some of our database marketing. We knew that we needed help with some of our administrative tasks in our business. We knew we needed help with servicing listings and helping just with certain things that a non-licensed person can do legally. But we hadn't taken the time to identify what those processes and workflows were so that by the time we hired somebody on who seemed like a great candidate, we kind of threw them into the deep end and said, I don't know, just work, just figure it out. And while we did do some training with them, and I now have a very tightened down training process for new hires because I've gone through this enough times, I didn't know what to train her on. I didn't know what tasks specifically to give to her. So the problem is while she was eager to work hard, she didn't know what she was supposed to do or when she was done doing it. So you have to be able to tell your prospective assistant specifically what you want them to do, each step in order to complete it, and how they'll know when they're done. That's a really important one. They have to know when they're done. And we can get into all the specifics of delegation because there's different levels of delegation that you can employ, but that's the very basic thing. And what happened was when we didn't have that in place, that relationship just imploded. It lasted less than like maybe 5 months because it just like it wasn't a good fit for her. It wasn't a good fit for us. Not because she didn't want to work hard, but because we weren't prepared to take on that hire. And we've gone through a couple of different scenarios, sort of like that over the years until we figured out, oh, it's not that people don't want to work. Not that we ever truly believe that, but I know some, you might be listening to that with a little bit of that limiting belief in your mind, thinking, oh, people don't want to work. People don't work the same way they used to. No, you're just probably a really crappy manager like I was. And I'll own it. I was a terrible manager when we went through a couple of our new hires. And so what happened in 2018, we had one of the worst years in our real estate business that we had had. We had just gotten married. We had taken basically a year off to travel and just to have fun and live our newlywed life. And we looked up one day and realized a lot of our businesses kind of dried up. And we were like, whoa. We were really happy with Instagram and referral and repeat business coming in. We need to kind of get things kickstarted again. Now, if we had had a really solid admin in place at that time, we would not have had the slump that we had in 2018. But we were able to turn it around. We absolutely exploded our business the following year in 2019, just in time to start trying for our first baby. And our business has grown really well ever since then. And what changed in 2018 was that we got systems in place. And so like that's the first step to hiring a VA or a virtual assistant or even an in-person assistant. We got our systems in place, and then we were able to choose specifically which systems we wanted to delegate to a virtual assistant. So once we identified that piece, then we thought, oh, okay, so now that we know what this person needs to do, we can actually interview candidates and determine what skill set is going to be best, so we know what type of candidate to hire. We're not just going to hire someone just for the sake of hiring them. We're going to hire them because we think that they're going to be really good at doing that work. And so we reached out to this fantastic company called Riva. Riva is a placement firm basically for virtual assistants who are offshore. So my virtual assistant is offshore. She's in the Philippines. She is on a totally different time zone than we are, obviously. And I was a little nervous going through that process for the first time, but I actually had experience of working in that kind of environment before in corporate America. And I happen to know that individuals from the Philippines or a lot of these other countries where a lot of virtual assistants tend to come out from are extraordinarily educated, extremely hardworking, very dedicated to their job, very exacting in what they do. And Riva, the placement firm that I reached out to, happened to do a really good job of finding the best of the best. And so I reached out to Riva, told them what I was looking to do. And they said, yeah, like we can definitely help line up some candidates. And so within about a couple of days or a week of sending over my needs, like my systems and what I wanted them to do, they were able to go through their agency and choose candidates who were most likely well suited to the tasks that I wanted them to take on. And if you want to reach out to Riva, by the way, I've got kind of a connection for you. You can reach out to them. And also they've got a little bit of a coupon situation, like a discount just through booking if you say my name. So look at the details in the show notes of this conversation if you're like, oh, say no more, I want to check this out. But basically you reach out to them and they set up 3 back-to-back interviews with candidates. And if something doesn't stick, they'll find more candidates for you. But I was lucky enough to know exactly who I wanted to work with in that first interview. And so we made our hire. She hit all the boxes and she was so kind and well-spoken. And I could tell she was just really competent right off the bat. And really excited to work, right? Like excited to work with us. We just had a great connection right off the bat. And so we brought her on part-time at first. And that's what I loved about this agency. I didn't feel like it was a big commitment. And I didn't feel like I wasn't going to be able to do enough for her, like have enough for her to do right at the front. So we started her with part-time, 20 hours a week. And it was a rate that I could pay comfortably at the time. Like I felt like I could afford it and handle it. And I started her off with training. And so what I started to do with training was, remember when I said that I got my systems in place? Well, when I documented all the workflows I wanted her to do, like go in and order these database materials for me, make updates to my CRM, go onto Canva and make these graphics, right? Well, now I knew what platforms I needed to train her on. So all I did was I said, hey, here's for your first week, your tasks. You're going to go in after I gave her a full onboarding experience. I told her which knowledge libraries or support libraries I wanted her to go through. And I basically had her go through all the tutorials of each of the platforms that I knew she was going to be using. So then at least she knew what I was talking about when I would say, hey, go into my CRM, which is Follow a Boss and has always been Follow a Boss. Go to my CRM, do this and that. She'd already know how to do it, right? Like amazing. And so once we got her ramped up, we quickly moved her to full time. And I cannot believe we ever lived without a virtual assistant. Like, it's such an amazing benefit to have, like an amazing fit and an amazing person that I'm like happy to help support with a job. Like, that's so cool. And so I'm going to share with you a couple things that she does every month that saves us absolute hours in our business. So the first one is our birthday list. And I say birthday list, this is actually a little bit bigger, but she manages most of our database marketing at this point, which is really cool. Like, you can be a non-licensed person to do this. You don't have to be on my time zone to do this. And you also don't have to reach out to my people to do this. Like, you can just manage it since I have the system in place. And so she took over a lot to do with our database marketing. And one thing specifically that she'll do is she'll schedule our marketing out. So she'll help schedule it out. And so, for example, I'm going to use the birthday list specifically because that's like a really easy, tangible workflow to explain in a short amount of time. At the end of the month of each month, she looks ahead using our database and gets a list of all of the upcoming birthdays that are happening in the next month. And she sends us an email and she says, hey, Steph and Bryce, check out the birthday list. Tell me who gets what. And so we take a moment at the end of the month and we look at this list and we say, okay, well, these guys just referred us, so we definitely want to send them a special birthday gift. These are past clients. We haven't heard from them in a while, but we still want to send them a birthday card, so they need a birthday card. And, these guys actually, they kind of done us wrong, and we haven't heard from them in years or whatever. They bought with another agent, and so we're just going to remove them from the birthday list altogether and, like, knock them down a peg on the database, just only simply because we're not going to be investing in that client relationship. We have others that we can invest in instead. It's also a great way to kind of like sort through and update your database once a month, just a few clients at a time. We send her what we need. We send her who to send our birthday gifts to. So we do have a birthday program. And if you want like a specific conversation on that, I can walk you through that. So we tell her who gets the birthday gifts, and then she places those orders and has them ready to be delivered. Like, how cool is that, right? So like that's already done. She also knows when to schedule them to get done as well. So she handles the whole thing because we ironed out the workflow for her. And then for people who we want her to send birthday cards to, we do that through a service called Send Out Cards. You might be familiar with it. It's nothing new. We've been using it for our entire real estate career. And we have that whole address book logged into Send Out Cards. So she just automatically goes into sendoutcards.com. Again, I'll link it in the show notes for you. And she chooses that contact, and then she sends them a birthday card. Like, how cool is that? And it ships directly from Send Out Card. It comes from us. It has our branding on it. Beautiful. So any other marketing that's coming up, she's helping just schedule, or if we have those like one-off needs from her, she's got them, right? She's ready to go. Now, the other thing that she does, so that's number one, a lot of our database marketing stuff. Now, if you're a real estate agent, by the way, who mostly gets a lot of referrals, who gets a lot of support in that instance, like from your ideal clients, you gotta have like an assistant. You can call them a wow coordinator if you want, right? But like, this is a great placement for your business. The second thing that my virtual assistant does every month that literally saves me so much time and headspace is she takes any copy for social media or for my email list and like puts it out there. And like, let me explain what that is. So I send a lot of emails to my email lists, right? And so what I do is I'll draft an email, get it just the way I want, and she will take that drafted email from Google Docs and go send it out to my email list. And like, I know this sounds silly, but think about how many steps are in any one of your processes. Sending an email newsletter, ordering this gift, doing this, doing that, preparing this, preparing that. You have to be able to look at that workflow and identify which activities within that workflow you don't have to do. And that is how you literally cut your working hours in half while accomplishing the same amount of stuff. You delegate specific tasks within a workflow that you don't need to be a part of, and that someone else is probably better at than you anyway. What she'll go ahead and do is she'll take the drafted email from me. And a lot of times I'll say, hey, I need an email draft, put together a doc for me. Like, this is not petty. This is extremely helpful stuff. She will go into Google Docs, create a format for a drafted email, and she'll format it just how I like it, because there's a specific way that I like to draft my emails in Google Docs. It's not just like a blank page. Like, I have to have it formatted, and I have to have like the subject line, and I put a table in there to keep everything all concise. So she formats it, sends me the doc, gets it prepared. She's going to do one for this podcast, by the way. So like when this podcast is delivered to us from our editor, hey Zeke, she's going to go over and put together, she's going to review this video, make sure it's all good to go. She's going to link it to a Google Doc, make sure all of it's ready. And then I'm going to go into that Google Doc after she sends me the link to it. And I am going to draft the email and the caption. And she is going to take that email, send it out where it needs to go, probably to your inbox. Hello. And she's also going to update the caption and the show notes and make sure all the links are proper, make sure everything's all formatted. This is so cool because I get to accomplish a lot, but I'm not doing hardly all of it myself, right? Like, no one's doing a gazillion things all by themselves. And if you've ever looked at me and you've wondered, wow, Steph, how do you do all of this? Like, you've got 2 toddlers, you've got your real estate business. I mean, your hair looks fantastic all the time, kidding. And you're putting out all this content. Yeah, but like, I've got a lot of people helping me. I mean, I'm on my own with the hair and somewhat of the toddlers. I got Bryce, obviously. But I've got people helping me all the time. And part of it is this process of looking at a workflow and seeing what parts do I not have to be involved in. It's not that I can't do them. It's that I got limited time, limited energy, limited brain bandwidth. And my VA is really good at that stuff, and I trust her implicitly. So that's 2 things. She does like my birthday list and my database marketing. And she does a lot of the like sending out or fulfillment of communication, being emails, even text messages, obviously tons of formatting on the CRM side, making sure Follow Up Boss is on the up and up. And then, she does literally like almost everything else. So the number 3 thing that she does is anything else in a given day that I just need help with, right? So anytime I catch myself thinking, I'm not going to ask anyone else to do this because it'll be faster for me to do it than I could teach somebody to do this. I always stop myself and think, is that actually true? And it's usually not. So for example, I use Zoom a lot for business. Okay, I'm just going to give you an example of one thing that my VA does, which is research. She does a lot of research and she helps me make decisions. Have you ever heard of decision fatigue? It's exhausting to make all the decisions yourself. It's really helpful to have somebody offer you a couple of different scenarios that you can then make decisions based off of or delegate based off of. And so for this example, I have Zoom. I use it a lot for my real estate business and for market authority. Like, I'm constantly on Zoom. It feels like it's a main way of how we discuss things with clients through consultations. We just do a lot on it. And I wasn't sure if we had the right, and this is such a niche example. It's like so embarrassing now that I'm saying it out loud. But I wasn't sure if we had the right plan on Zoom to do some of the things that I wanted to do. Because I also pay for example, a webinar service. I pay for a webinar hosting service because I like to teach live classes as I've done in the past on the market authority side. I've used my webinar service to also host live market updates with my ideal clients and invite a group of them, right? Like, sitting there looking at this bill for this webinar service, and I'm looking at the bill for Zoom, and I'm like, can one of these just do all of it? Like, can Zoom take over all of this so I can cut these other expenses? And so I reach out to my VA and I say, hey, can you do some like searching, do some research for me on Zoom. Tell me what it would cost to upgrade and tell me like how I can get the other features that Zoom has, or if there's any other things that I do in business and pay for that Zoom can take the place of. And like by the end of the day, she had a full-on explanation of what I was paying for with Zoom, where I was spending redundantly in other areas, and like what she thinks I should do, which was get rid of these other things I was investing in for no reason when Zoom can do it all. So in a couple of hours, I had somebody go out and do the hard thinking for me, present me with options that I could then make a decision based off of, and saves me a bunch of money at the same time. So when I say literally everything else, like anytime I just need some help or support, there are so many things that you can call on a virtual assistant to help you do. And a lot of times in doing that, they will end up paying for themselves because they provide so much value. And that's just my story. That's what I want to share a little bit about the virtual assistant. That's what she does every month. That saves me hours and hours and also lots of headaches. And she's honestly a joy to work with. Like, we love working with you so much, my friend. No, you listen to this. I hope so. But I want you to start thinking about what your world might look like if you had that level of support, right? Are you ready to hire a virtual assistant? Do you have your ducks in a row? Do you know who you would hire? Do you know what they would do? Do you know what they need to be trained on, right? What are your communication? And we didn't even talk about communication. Like, when are you speaking to them? How are you speaking to them? I'm going to put the ball in your court, my friend. If you're, when you're listening to this, like, I want you to decide where we need to take the conversation. Leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube, or send me an email or a direct message. You can email me at hello@stephanielugo.com. That's Stephanie with an F, by the way, Stefanie. Do not hit me with a PH in there. That is not a part of my name. Or you can hit me on Instagram at Bryson Stephanie. Send me a direct message. Let me know if this conversation resonated with you. Let me know where you want to take this. I'm going to leave the ball in your court. If we have another question or another video topic that this conversation has inspired, hand that over to me and I will put it on my next batch film day, which my assistant is also helping me coordinate. So I'm happy to share all of that. We don't really talk a lot about that side of things, virtual assistant, admin work. But there's a lot to it, and I feel like I'm a little bit of an expert at it now because I've gone through this long enough, made enough mistakes, learned enough lessons. There's a lot that I can share, and I'd love to have that conversation with you. Thank you so very much for tuning in, and until next time, keep on crushing it.